Flying Casual is brought to you by Patreon supporters Brent, Andy Dugan, David Bush, Rob Patsky, Jory Webb, Kelly Breckner, Nate Edison, and Wes Anderson. May the Force be with you.
You're listening to Flying Casual, a Star Wars podcast. Here's your host, Michael Canterbury.
Casual fam, how the hell are ya? Welcome back to our latest installment of Casual Counsel. I am your host, Michael Canterbury, for any of you newbies to the podcast, and I'm joined with me. I mean, how can I be?
I am joined with myself.
I am joined with myself in the third person. I'm joined as usual by the lovely Holly. Holly, how the hell are you?
Feels like we haven't podcasted in forever, even though it's only been a week.
Yeah, in an epic, last podcast was our Casual Counsel, and they just get better and better.
I know. I'm looking forward to part 2 of The Force.
I feel like that's the first of a 10-part series.
I know.
for as far as we got, because you don't know a lot about, we don't, at least in canon, we don't know a ton about the past, but we know quite a bit about, from where Star Wars in our minds began and then some of the future.
Yep.
So, I mean, geezy Pete's. I mean, we brought up the future, we brought up the past, we brought up the present. We were all over the place, but that's just what happens.
We were everywhere in space and time.
We didn't even talk about the portal. We didn't even talk about that. That's the Force, and that wasn't. That's probably the most like
the world between worlds.
The world between worlds. Holly. It's as if it eluded us because it doesn't even want us to tap into that yet.
I want to rewatch.
That's what she said, by the way. I'm really sorry. That's what she said.
Phrasing.
Yeah.
I want to rewatch that episode of Rebels.
Yeah.
Where Ezra
blows your
pulls
mind.
Ahsoka back in.
Boy.
I feel like, is it time for me to rewatch Rebels? I just finished it.
Took long enough to just finish it. Now we're going back to it.
Hey. I finished it a few months ago, and I feel like I need to watch it again.
Coming back for a second, Holly, I don't blame you because it's an amazing series.
I did put out the poll in
the
Facebook group.
Yeah.
And, and asked everyone, what book you would like to read next, because I'm taking everyone's opinion into consideration.
Yes.
Because I do want people to read the book.
Yep.
And it looks like everyone else couldn't be done with Rebels either, because Ahsoka is, I think, probably the book we're going to go with.
It's a hot topic, and I'll say it's a hot topic, or it's one of the favorites because I think of Clone Wars, right?
Mm-hmm.
And people, not a lot of people are going to read the book. Not a lot of people do read the books, and that's fine. But with Clone Wars being so hot, and once again, Ahsoka's future being unknown at the end of a series, like it's just, this continues to happen. So
yeah, and I feel like with all the rumors, like we just
let's go.
Season 7 was pretty much all about Ahsoka and Rex, and Ahsoka is so prominent throughout Rebels, and now will we see Ahsoka in The Mandalorian? Will we not see Ahsoka in The Mandalorian? Yeah. No one really knows. I feel like everyone's just talking about Ahsoka. I can't snap with this hand still.
Yeah, please stop snapping with the left hand, because no one knows what's happening, because it's just dead air. See, that you did. I doubt you even picked it up with the microphone. So.
If anybody heard that snap, please tell me.
Let us know, but you didn't. So, we're not even talking about that. Though it is a fascinating subject, Holly, and I know we're going to bring up the portal, the world between worlds. Mm-hmm. I mean, the most emotional part of that entire scene was Ezra seeing Kanan, and could he save him in the that was insane. That's a whole nother thing. We could talk about that and the Force, and would the Force, would there be a consequence of him doing so? I mean, he did with Ahsoka, but what is Ezra paying for that action? What price?
There's always a price. What is everybody paying for that action? Okay,
Holly, we watched another not time travel, like that kind of story.
Palm
Springs. Weird movie.
First of all, Andy Samberg just continues to deliver.
Let's go. Yeah.
He truly truly does.
Yeah.
And I thought, mistakenly so, going into this movie.
Not a love story. Yes, it is.
I mean, kind of, yeah. I thought it was going to be a chick flick. And, like, I thought I knew what was happening already. She was a maid of honor. He was with this other girl.
Yeah.
They make eye contact at the wedding. And I was like, oh, I see what's going to happen here.
Yeah.
I had no freaking idea.
And it was a love story. And you know what? Let's not even call chick flick. Like, that's just kind of a bad.
Yeah, you're right.
Like, a movie's a movie. I actually enjoy the so-called chick flicks
a lot.
what? A good love story always rattles me.
The freaking Lord of the Rings is a chick flick.
Because it's full of dudes?
I don't know,
because you're down for little guys with hairy big feet.
No,
I get
it.
That's
chick
cool.
Flick? Because it's kind of like, it has all that. It has romance, it has drama.
A giant ring. I mean, right?
Yeah.
A powerful ring.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's the big hairy feet, though.
That's disgusting, and that's The Hobbit, really. The Hobbit.
We see them in Lord of the Rings. Everyone knew at that time that they had big, disgusting feet. Those of us who hadn't read the books and still haven't, mind you. That's just me.
Yeah.
The only person in the world.
The only person in the world.
Yeah, seriously.
I know.
Wow. Not an Andy Samberg podcast. Not a Harry Potter. No, wait. Sorry.
Harry Potter.
Not a Harry Potter podcast either, but not a Lord of the Rings podcast.
No. But anyway, Palm Springs, that was
Great movie.
What a trip.
It was a super trip.
And it was so funny. And I felt like I was on a trip.
Yeah.
And tripping.
Yeah.
All of the trips.
Yep.
And it had everything from romance to quantum physics to dinosaurs.
To shrooms.
I don't know. It's on Hulu. You should watch it.
Yeah, a fantastic Hulu original. Definitely recommend it. Also, you council members, for our part 2 discussion of the Force, maybe some, reading or watching material to study up for topics of time travel.
Yes,
I don't know, maybe.
Try to find the connection between string theory, the Force, and the world between worlds.
They're all connected.
Do we run into Andy Samberg somewhere in there? Probably.
Is he playing his character from, I almost said Reno 911.
Reno.
Also a great show, but Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
A terrific television series on Fox featuring Andy Samberg.
Right.
But Holly, we're talking about Star Wars, and I feel like I have insane cotton mouth right now. I feel like you and I, we had some takeout Chinese.
Yeah.
Super dehydrated right now.
So
you may hear
thirsty.
us hacking up. So thirsty. Feel like you're good. Just kick the camera. That's fine.
No, it's a dog.
Oh, the dog kicked the camera.
Chewy is
blame the dog.
No.
Yeah.
Chewy is being a little bit moody because yesterday he got a bath and he also got a nail trim.
Wow.
And so today he's being very subtle about how pissed he is at us. So he almost just knocked the cameras over because he leaned against the tripod.
Yeah.
Earlier, what did he do? We were talking to him and he looked at us and then he literally just turned around and sat in front of the wall and stared at the wall.
Pissed.
So he didn't have to look at us.
Pissed. Or there's a spirit in the house and he's trying to avoid it.
No, I think we're just living with a teenager.
Probably. Ollie, you and I go off on these tangents, and it's almost as if we're ignoring our third party here on the podcast, which would be Luke, normally.
Or lack thereof.
Or the lack thereof, Luke, tonight. So, folks, no, we're not ignoring Luke. Luke is also, it's everyone in the casual fam seems to be moving at this point. Everyone's moving, big life events happening. So Luke is actually moving. Still nearby, 5 minutes from his old place, walking 5 minutes, I think. So he's still local. He's still going to be podcasting with us. Just had a big life change there with the move. So unable to podcast tonight, Holly, but we are talking about Star Wars. As much as it doesn't sound like we're talking about Star Wars tonight,
listen,
we are.
People know that for the first 10 minutes of the podcast, we talk about whatever we want. It's our podcast. So they listen to that.
I've actually heard some people hate that.
If
you ever go and look at podcast reviews, I mean, go ahead and look at ours if you want. That's fine. Leave a 5-star rating and tell us what you love about the podcast. Holly, right? I mean, we'll definitely take that.
You can tell us that you like our preamble and that you want us to continue doing this. Listen, it's fine. I get some people don't like that, but they can just fast forward. It is a quarantine, and don't people want to feel like they're having a fun conversation with their friends? Well, and we are their friends.
And that's where I disagree with people who leave comments like that, because as much as podcasts can be informative and educational, and a lot of them are. A lot of podcasts are meant to be entertaining, and it's nice to get to know the hosts, and they should have some personality, right? If I'm just going to read off Star Wars facts, you might as well pick up the encyclopedia, and you'll probably then know more than I do about Star Wars.
Right. We're not a Wikipedia podcast.
Yeah, exactly. Though would love that endorsement. Would definitely take that endorsement.
Yeah, we would. But I don't know. I mean, look, if you don't like the host, don't listen to the podcast.
That's a fair assessment, Holly.
Thank you.
But just refrain from leaving that review on Apple Podcasts. But guys, we are talking about Star Wars. I'm sure the Force will come up, but that was an epic conversation. Thanks to those guys for stopping by. Hopefully the rest of our council can join next time for some epic conversation. Looking forward to that. But Holly, this week, the newest installment of the Darth Vader 2020 line came out, numero 3.
So that did come out this week.
It did come out this week. I believe it was the Wednesday.
Okay.
Whatever date that was, the 29th. I have no idea. No concept of time after watching Palm Springs.
I know. Where are we? When are we?
Exactly.
July 29th, 2020.
We're here in the now. But so if you guys recall, and I don't know how many people are reading this entire line, it was here for a couple issues, went away for whatever reason, the quarantine, publishing delays, whatever it was, some delays for issue 3. But just to sum up the past 2 issues, I mean, we're post. Are we in the Empire phase? We're post Empire. God, what era are we in? We have to be in the Empire phase.
Yeah. So this takes place between episode 5 and episode 6.
Okay, just kidding. Post Empire. Okay, perfect. Had to reset my boundaries after Palm Springs.
Well, I got this one.
Thank you for that, Holly. God bless you.
The only time that I will ever say a Star Wars timeline is not because I just read it on the internet.
Well, I think we actually need a timeline on the wall.
I think that would be pretty cool. Do a little mural, a little wraparound. Instead of chair rail, we have a timeline. Yeah,
so at this point, Luke knows Vader's his father, and
he runs away.
He does. Vader obviously knows that Luke is his son, and there's some anger there on Vader's part of his son not joining him. Putting out a hand, join me. Together we can rule the galaxy. We can destroy the Emperor. And he rejects him. He's feeling that rejection, and he pretty much says at that point, like, "Who made my son a whiny little bee?"
He's weak.
He's weak?
Who has done this?
Who's done this to him? I didn't raise him. It wasn't me. Who's done this? Who's been hiding him from me? Who made him the weakling that he is? And he's on a mission to find out who. And on that mission,
he finds someone.
He quickly gets, he goes on a different path, Holly. I don't even know how to describe it, but he ends up running into Sabe, as we know, one of the Queen Amidala's handmaidens and one of her protectors, and runs into her in search of answers about Padme's death. We started off in one place. We're now going in a different place. I don't know how long this storyline is going to continue, but we're riding it right now. So that's where we are, Holly. Runs into Sabe. Sabe saying, I'm looking for, why Padme died. I'm trying to avenge her. I have some information. I have recordings that, can help me find, answers. And Vader, holds off on killing her pretty much. And she's useful. I want answers too. What happened? He even tells Palpatine after, episode 3, like at the end of episode 3, what she was alive. I felt it. In your anger, you killed her. And he yells out, "No!" Right? So it says he doesn't even know what he did. He doesn't even know she's
blacked
dead.
out.
Blacked out. Had a moment that lasted a long time. So he doesn't kill, Sabe in the moment and sees she could be a tool. They go to Naboo in this issue, Holly. Yeah, together. Joining forces for answers. Never thought this would ever happen, ever. And it was awkward seeing Vader in a ship with Sabe, just casually flying, going to Naboo looking for answers. And they run into a couple of Padme's other, I don't even know what you call them, guardsmen.
Yeah.
Tanra and
Typhus?
I can't remember his name.
Typhus. That's not what you meant to say.
A couple of the, do you recall? I don't have the issue here with me, but whatever his name is, it's T something.
Typho. General.
Captain Typho and Tonra.
I was going to say Gregor, because that is what his name's listed.
His first name's Gregor, yeah.
Now
Typho, yeah. Now you know. Not an encyclopedia, like we said, Holly, at the beginning of this. So they're on Naboo, and this is the quickest summary. More happened, obviously. They attack Vader when they first see him, and, Sabe yells out, "Stop, like, what are you doing?" Like, it's Vader. Like, we thought you were in distress, like, and we're trying to kill him. And they say, no, stop. We're all working together on this mission or whatever. Let's go find those secret recordings that we stashed away. And so they go.
Okay. This is a really quick recap.
The quickest recap.
Some interesting things that I think that happened in between all of these things happening is that Vader actually stopped when Sabe said stop.
He did.
So that was kind of surprising to me, because I feel like the Vader that we see in the movies, including the movies that take place after this particular event, he doesn't stop.
No.
He would do whatever he wants. Get out of my way.
But remember, though, this is an episode, post 5 Vader
He's shook.
He's shook. He's having thoughts of destroying the Emperor. He knows his son's a weakling. He's having flashbacks of Padme everywhere. Mm-hmm. He just wants answers at this point. And so I think he's a little more, I don't want to say reasonable, because he's still a lunatic. Yeah. Love him,
sure.
But a total lunatic. And so I think he just wants answers. And I can't remember exactly. They know where the recording is or whatever, so he spares them. And the droid that they have with him the whole time is hysterical. He's the comedic relief at all times here. He spares them.
Something else that I kind of liked is this is our introduction to these two new characters in the comics, and you already immediately like them because she pretty much says, like, I told you to not attack us when we come in. Yeah. And they're like, well, we saw you with Vader. We thought that you were in distress, and we thought that maybe if we could distract him, then you could get away. Mm-hmm. Like, the mission that they themselves have come up with that we don't even know, like, what their objective is working together, but it's so important that they're like, we're going to sacrifice ourselves so that you can get away and continue searching for what we all agreed we need to find.
Because they took an oath, and we find that out later in the issue. And Holly, thank you for stopping me. Sometimes I blow over details. And Typho, mind you, he's from episode 2. We've seen him. He's got the eye patch and stuff, so he's not exactly new. I don't recall who Tonra is. He must be new. But so an unlikely alliance here just to get answers, right? Blown away the whole time that Vader is showing restraint, and they're kind of reminiscing on the past when in search of this recording, whatever this missing footage is that Vader's trying to get a hold of that Sabe claims to have. Reminiscing on the past and how great the Queen was and all this and that, and then their search and where they end up in this search on Naboo is this underwater Gungan facility, right? And there's this shrine almost dedicated. It's pretty much the last shot of the Phantom Menace. This shrine dedicated to all those who participated in ending the what do you call occupation, I guess, of Naboo. So that whole line of people there. The Gungan chief's got his, I don't know what that is, Holly, a power ball? I have no idea.
Power ball, yes.
Whatever it is.
This is magic crystal ball.
See, and this is where we need Luke. He probably knows what that thing is called. He probably knows what its purpose is. But whatever that scene is there, there's pretty much a depiction of that there. And this is when Vader starts to get pretty rattled because Sabe starts telling him what happened here and who these people are. And here's little Anakin. He was young, but he also fought for the Queen and saved her life, as did, a lot of the people here. But even this youngling, he risks it all for her. And that rattles Vader. He's just like, enough. Like, he just like whips out his lightsaber and he just like destroys the whole thing. He's like, you're delaying. Like, give me the answers you promised me, or I'm gonna end you. Like, this isn't a negotiation. Like, I'll end you if you don't have what I need. No, seriously, we're gonna, hey, hands up. We're not gonna. We'll give you the answers that you seek.
Well, I think he was already angry and very annoyed because before any of that happened, when they were going down in the water, they were all attacked by
That's right.
the fish. The sorry, give me one.
I want to call it a giant puffer fish, but that's not what it is.
It was a colo clawfish.
Nice pull, Holly. Let's go. Nice.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you.
You're welcome.
No, but they were all attacked by it, and it destroys their ship, right?
It does, yeah. And Vader saves them. You're right. He does.
And he takes his lightsaber and he cuts the fish in half.
Yeah. He
So that was pretty intense because if you've
was.
ever seen one of them, which I'm sure nobody ever has, they're very large.
They are. There's always a bigger fish. That's what we
Bigger
learned
than-
in the
bigger
Phantom
than
Menace.
Vader.
And it's funny because at the end of this issue, you see where that joke kind of comes back into play, at least in my mind. But and you're right. So he saves them in that moment. They jump out of the speeder and the thing's going to eat them, and he pulls out his lightsaber and defends them. And when they get to their little safe spot, the little Gungan hideout, they're like thanking him, right?
Yeah.
He's not having any of that.
Yeah. And the thing is,
Enough of the pleasantries.
the thing that I kind of find interesting is how, like, I just think it's because they're trying to appease him and make sure that he doesn't actually just like murder them, take what he wants and
seems like
leaves.
it.
Which at any point, this is Vader that we're talking about.
Yeah.
At any point, they could give him the recording and
Yeah.
he could be like, "I'm done with all you," and just strike them all down.
Absolutely.
They don't know. So
Absolutely.
like their life is kind of like hanging in like the balance of, is he going to like let them live because they gave him this and because they are like the closest thing to Padme that he can get to right now?
Yeah.
Do they have more information that he can come back for later?
Yeah.
Or is he just going to strike them all down?
Yeah.
But I don't know. He's very agitated
Very agitated.
by this time. And they all call him, what I was going to say, they all call him Lord Vader.
They do.
They address him as Lord Vader.
They do.
Which I don't know if that's, again, because they're trying to appease him and like calm him down or like why?
Can't call him Darth. Can't
They're
call him
not
Darth.
Obi-Wan.
You know, not Obi-Wan. There's only one man who can do that. But you're right. Yeah, they're. I don't know. I guess how else do you address them?
It's just interesting seeing these characters like recognize him as being Lord Vader.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's been around for a while at this point, right? Like being the Emperor's right-hand man, he has a presence now.
Yeah.
People know him, what he's about. So he's been out there doing some damage for a while. So they get to the safe spot. They pull out this recording, and the recording shows Padme's apartment and the missing piece that Vader wanted to get answers. And it's just all of them there in this little group that they've created, right? And I can't remember exactly what their words were, but it was, we're all going to do whatever it takes to find her killer and end them.
Yeah.
Pretty much, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Vader starts asking questions, I think, like, when did you last see her? And I think Tanra and Typho like answer like, well, you know, she was on Coruscant. Last thing we heard from her, she was going to Mustafar.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently they're like, Anakin also went or was lost.
Well, so if you remember,
I don't. Obviously, I'm not good at recanting any of this information.
in the mural that's down there, it's an image of oh gosh, who's in it? It's the Gungans, and Obi-Wan,
Padme's there,
Sabe's on
Anakin's.
there, and Anakin as a child is on there, and they point out there's Anakin. He even served Padme as a small child. That's how loyal Anakin was to Padme.
Yeah.
And that like set him off.
Yeah. Because he started questioning the guards too, like, oh, you're telling me the 2 strikes that happened on her life that we see, obviously Corday died. The droid actually, I guess, starts asking like, well, there's a correlation. You guys were around in all these times, and they're like, how dare you like say that we
accuse us?
Yeah, we would do anything to hurt her. But when they start, they start asking Vader, or no, Vader asks them like, okay, where'd she go? She went to Mustafar. And then you start seeing some things turn, and they say, Vader, weren't you, what wasn't Mustafar either like your I don't even know what you call it, not your home world, but like, isn't that your realm? Isn't Vader?
Yeah.
Isn't Mustafar where you reside?
Or they heard rumors of him being there.
Yeah.
Well, and I think something interesting that happens there is we don't really see very many flashbacks during this comic.
Yeah.
But at this moment in time, the flashbacks that we get, which are a little bit different, is we get an image of Padme laying on the rock on Mustafar, and then we get another image of Anakin's body after he got burnt, was missing his limbs.
Yeah.
So I don't know if Vader was like remembering what happened on Mustafar then. You think he was?
Oh, absolutely. And he's having flashbacks too. There were a couple when they got to Naboo, moments where him and Padme were having lunch or whatever, when he's feeding the fruit through the Force. He was remembering those moments. And so he definitely does. And so when
he's getting closer and closer to remembering what he did to her, though.
And that's probably going to be the culmination of where this begins or where this ends. And we'll probably see like a brutal Vader at that point. Like maybe not. I don't know. Maybe he'll hate himself for it. And that's, another step to redemption.
Look,
we'll see.
He just needs to do a little soul searching.
That's what he's doing.
But he needs to do it
without murdering a bunch of people.
Yeah. I mean, just come to terms with what you did.
He can't, though, because he wouldn't have done that. He loved her too much. He wouldn't hurt her, and he did. But so we see this moment kind of turning, because this whole time I'm thinking it's so odd. This is so odd that Sabe is teaming up with Vader, that Typho and all these folks, hell-bent on finding her killer, are teaming up with the biggest villain in the galaxy who also wants the same answers. I get it, but it seemed odd. And
then they confront him.
And then they confront him.
Which is ballsy.
Weren't you on Mustafar, Vader? Isn't that where, it had to be you? And then you're just like, holy cow, it was a trap the whole time.
Yeah, they knew exactly what they were going to do.
I was blown away by that. Because I shouldn't have been, because I thought it was odd the whole time that they were teaming up, right? It just felt weird.
Yeah.
Like, what could you possibly accomplish?
So do you think that they, placed things in certain places? Like, Sabe was intentionally there because she knew that Vader would come. I mean, if you think about how clever Padme was, it absolutely makes sense that her shadows. Well, that's something else that we kind of skimmed over. I loved how in part of the comic where she's talking about how she served Padme and she was always there, she refers to herself as just one of her shadows.
Yeah, she does. And even when they're talking about the guards and Sabe and the handmaidens, Vader even says that they were masters of
deception,
diplomacy
and deceit
and deception. Yeah. And it was so fitting because that was around the middle of the comic where they're talking about what they did, and Master recalling, like, yeah, you were that dedicated to her, and deception was a part of that, disguising yourselves as her and putting her in different places. And you'll learn a lot about this in the Queen's Shadow book. But so that was a great moment, that then when you see that actually this was a whole ploy to get Vader here, to get him in this moment. And then you see the recording of them all saying, we'll do whatever it takes to avenge her death. And then it clicks and you're like, wow, they got him to this underwater facility. And I think it's Tonra pulls out a detonator and he goes to press the button. And the last page, there's this giant fish, Holly, going to bite this globe that they're in underwater. And so that, to me, it was almost like there's always a bigger fish. I feel like this fish is probably going to disrupt whatever Tonra and them are trying to do. And obviously Vader will survive, them probably not.
Which I love that concept, because no matter how cunning you are, no matter how clever and how planned out you have this whole idea of what's going to happen, you can't control these external factors.
No.
There's still, I don't think that we get enough of this in the movies. We definitely do in things like Fallen Order and the comics and Rebels, Resistance, those shows. But there's so many creatures in the Star Wars universe, and they're still going about their lives. They're still doing their own thing. And
Absolutely.
they don't ever account for them, though.
No.
It's like they underestimate the droids. They also underestimate the creatures.
Absolutely.
And they come in and they disrupt every single time. And sometimes that works out to our advantage. When I say our advantage, I mean like the light side.
Yeah.
But sometimes I guess that they work in the favor of the dark side.
They do. But you know what? If Darth Jar Jar would have been there in that moment, he probably would have foresaw all of this and assisted in Vader's destruction. I think they would have been in a far different position.
Probably.
But
I'm sure you are correct.
Right. Thank you. I think it would have been. Where's Jar Jar right now? I don't know. Hiding out somewhere.
Question.
Yeah.
Do we have a Jar Jar comic line?
Not that I'm aware of. I mean, there's references to him in the Aftermath series and things like that.
Well, he's on the mural in this, isn't he?
He is. He's kind of miserable, doing almost acting as like a jester or something for entertainment.
Jar Jar.
Yeah, it's sad. It's really sad. But and so guys should have said it in the beginning, spoiled the heck out of that comic book, and there's far more details. I just wanted to get to the meat of things so we can talk about that a little bit. Holly, like I told you when I first started reading the second issue, when Sabe comes in and they're kind of teaming up, it was just like, this is weird. This just feels weird. But I mean, that's Sabe. That's what they were out to do. And how they made the connections with Vader, I'm not sure. It had to have been more than just, you were on Mustafar, Vader, right? Like, that's where your castle is. That's where you do your thing. That's where she died. I mean, I don't know if that's a big leap. I mean, he's killed a lot of people. But, like, they have to have more information, I would think, right? Like,
yeah, I don't know. It made it seem like they did know something else, because they definitely have it set in their minds that he was responsible.
Yeah.
But they also have it set in their minds that he murdered Anakin.
Yeah. So they don't know they don't know that Anakin fell to the dark side and became Darth Vader. They just don't. Mm-hmm. They still, which tells us a lot about the galaxy then, right? None of them none of them
people know and what they don't know.
Exactly. Even those that know a lot, like Sabe, like those that have been out there and been investigating things for a while, they still don't know about Anakin, which is interesting.
It also goes to show how much Anakin actually truly was loved in the galaxy, because I feel like what we see from Anakin in things like the Clone Wars and, the original trilogies, he's kind of like this snarky, arrogant child, but yet when we see people speaking about Anakin, they always speak of him fondly. Yeah. Obi-Wan does. His fellow Jedi do. Mm-hmm. Sabe and these knights do. They all love him, and they mourn him. They miss him.
It reminds me of another part of this comic book where they're talking about Anakin. Like, poor thing, came from Tatooine, and I think Vader even asked, like, what did you do after Padme died? She's like, I went to Tatooine. That's what she wanted me to go there. Well, why? Well, Anakin's mother was still there. She was still a slave, and she sent us there to find her and free her. Unfortunately, we didn't get there in time. We heard, she was gone or missing, or somehow they knew she was gone. She had passed or something like that. And then Vader has a flashback of his mother then at that point too. And I thought that was so cool, just like almost another knife to the chest.
To Vader.
Like a knife to the heart, right? Of like, wow, she loved me so much. She loved my mother. She barely even knew my mother, but she wanted to do that for me. She sent me there to find her. And she said they freed more people, but they couldn't make it in time to save his mother. Mm-hmm.
And it just, so we as the readers of the comic line, we know what he did, but he hasn't gotten to the point yet where he is willing to remember those actions. And I just am so curious to know if we're going to get to that point in this comic line, or in this first, I guess, run of these comics, or if that's something that we're going to have to wait for, because I personally would not want to be anywhere near him when that flashback comes to him. There's the snap again.
The lack thereof. And you're right, because there's a moment where they're talking about Anakin, young Anakin, and you see it's one of those moments where they have his fist in the lightsaber, and you can just tell he's about to ignite the thing, and it's red and it's glowing, and there's anger there, and something subdues him in that moment. But I love what you said, Holly. Is this Darth Vader's journey to acceptance?
Yeah.
Is this the moment? Because I don't know. I think Luke was the start of it, right? And his redemption, his ultimate redemption. Like, we can overthrow the Emperor. That's not so much like hey, I know what I did was wrong and I've messed up. That you don't really see until A New Hope, or not A New Hope, Return of the Jedi.
But there has to be other things that happen leading up to that moment to allow, because you wouldn't go from episode 5 Darth Vader to episode 6 Darth Vader without a huge personal journey for him in between.
Yeah.
And I think that sometimes it's hard for people to want that because they just want the Darth Vader that they know from the movies. Yeah. But it's kind of like, if you like this big bad villain who was also a person from Star Wars, the Clone Wars, Anakin, a Jedi who we really loved, don't you want to know what he battles with to get to that point where we see his redemption?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. And because it's not just that simple. It's not a flip of the switch.
No, and it never could be.
It never could be.
And he's too complicated of a character for that to even make sense, or for that to be just an acceptable, it is what it is. Darth Vader now he's redeemed.
Yeah. And it's to me, it's never been that simple. It's always been more complicated. We just didn't have the story. And what makes it, other things, I'm thinking about him grappling, like you said, with Padme's death, and that it may be his fault. And then to know, like, I have a child. The child survived. The only child that he thinks that even was there to begin with survived. And it doesn't have its mother. I've taken that from Luke.
Do you think that he would feel remorse for that, though? I don't think he's.
I don't know what Vader thinks at all, ever, but we're seeing that he can be reasonable, and that but I think you're right. I think this is his journey to accepting what he's done.
Yeah,
and that's going to take us into the Vader that we see in 6, where there's a love for his son, and it's too late for me, Luke.
And I feel like, okay, so
come on,
okay. So I feel like, for me, if you're a Sith Lord, you don't have remorse. And that's part of what makes you a Sith Lord. You don't have remorse for any of the bad things that you've done. Because if you do, I feel like those feelings are more so for our characters that we love on the light side. They're the ones who have to deal with, I have to make these hard decisions. We either have to do A or B, and both of them have bad consequences. One is, better for us and our battles than the other. I feel like the Sith Lords, they just have a one-track mind.
Yeah. It's anger, and that's what he's been dealing with.
Yeah, and this is what I feel like he wouldn't be able to have that remorse. And if he starts to have those feelings of regret, then it's just he hasn't. This might make some people mad, and maybe I'm completely wrong. This is just my personal opinion. I feel like, to me, then it would make sense in that moment that he is still battling with not having fully embraced the dark side. Yeah. I feel like if you're still going to have those feelings come back up, where you have those feelings of like love for Padme and remembering all those moments, I feel like he hasn't fully embraced that then. And I feel like that's part of the other reasons why he's able to be redeemed later, is because he still has, like they say, there's still some good in him.
Yeah, Padme thinks so, and we heard Obi-Wan grappling with that, right? Like, she said there was good in him in the Kevin Scott story. Like, there's good in him. If that were actually true, like, she would be here now. She wouldn't died of a broken heart. But like, Padme believed that, and so I like what you're saying about, if he's actually feeling like this, maybe he never fully turn to the dark side, though. I think there's obviously a majority like anger in him right now, and I think that could be a big reason why he neglected to see the trap that was around him, because he was immersed in destroying whoever the hell it was that killed her.
Well, and I think that
it's himself.
Yeah, and I think that he has been misguided. We know that because I mean, look at who took him in. It was Palpatine.
Yeah.
Like, we know that their relationship is extremely skewed, and he doesn't trust Palpatine at this very moment. And I feel like, I guess, what I was trying to say was kind of like a roundabout way of saying, I guess, that this story kind of like corroborates that idea that there is still good in him, and it kind of like fills in those questions.
Yeah.
Because I feel like there are people out there who are like, absolutely not. Well, I mean, minus up to the point where he has his redemption, but.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Yoda says attachments can lead to, you know, like that's why the Jedi forbid it, because, and that's what this could be, as an attachment. I don't know, maybe not. Definitely love, we think, right? Vader loves Padme. Does he? Does he? Yeah, he definitely does. But I don't know, Holly. I think, as weird of a story as it is, this, because the second issue, I don't know, was a little odd for me. We're kind of, I thought we were focusing on the Luke arc, and now we're back to Padme, and But I think it's going to come full circle, though. I think it's going to come back to, wow, that's my son. It's time to make things right. And maybe that's not like me making the ultimate sacrifice and destroying the Empire, but like me forming a relationship with my son, taking steps to not being the father that I should have been, but like, what have I missed? Let me try to make some connection with that.
But I feel like he's still a little bit, I think more so to him, it would be like convincing Luke to join me. I don't think that it would be.
For sure.
I don't think it's like, wow, I'm like the world's worst dad.
No.
And I need to be a better dad and be there for my kid. It's like, okay, Luke came into my life for a reason. The Force brought him here. It's because he needs to come and join me so that we can be, like he says, more powerful.
Rule as father and son.
And then when that doesn't happen over and over again, I feel like he just has so much anger for so many different things, but he doesn't realize that what he should be angry with is being manipulated by Palpatine. Yeah. So instead, he's directing his anger at who killed Padme, who trained Luke, who made Luke weak. Why did the Jedi do this to my son? Where are they? They need to be destroyed.
Yeah. Yeah. You're right. Because even in 6, when he's fighting Luke, well, if you won't join me, you have a sister. Maybe she will. It's not a, hey, daddy's back to make rights wrong. It's, who I can sense the Emperor's demise, and who's going to rule then, who's going to be by my side. Yeah.
And I think that something that's kind of unique about this comic line is that we don't really feel sad for Darth Vader until you know, like, you see him having these flashbacks, and you see how happy him and Padme were, and then you know, like, man, you are going to be devastated when you suddenly remember what you did, and that I'm sure that he will find, obviously, some way to place the blame on it. It wasn't him. It was something else going on, because I don't actually believe that he will fully accept that he is responsible for that. Yeah. And I think that probably at the time that he is redeemed is probably when he has those emotions come back in, and he's like, I did this. There's no one to blame but me. But I feel like while he's still Darth Vader throughout this comic line, I feel like it's just going to make him more angry, and then he's going to direct that anger at everybody but himself.
Well, or maybe even Obi-Wan, right?
Probably.
Because
especially Obi-Wan.
Obi-Wan's failure is now complete. Like, that's he says that to Luke in 6. Like, now I know you have a sister. Like, Obi-Wan failed there too. So maybe he blames Obi-Wan again, but you're right. There's probably going to be, it's like the flashback in the second Vader line that I love so much, when, you know, Vader goes to confront the Emperor in a thought, and he destroys him. And then we have a shot of Tatooine on a cliff, and sitting legs over the cliff is Obi-Wan, just kind of down in the dumps, thinking about what's happened. You know, probably a lot of what we're going to see in the Kenobi series.
Poor Obi-Wan.
And Vader walks up behind him and just says, "Master." And that's the end of the thought. And then he comes back to reality, to what he's really done. There was a moment, he had a moment where he could have made the right choice. And I think you're right. We're going to get to a moment here where he could accept what he did and try to make it right, try to save his son or save whatever. And he chooses hate.
Yeah.
He chooses anger.
And he's going to do that every time until the end.
God, it's such a tragic story.
I mean,
I love it. I love these Vader comics. And I think like we're getting some real depth here that we may not be able to get, out of a standalone movie with Vader or something, which I don't know. I don't know if we'll ever get that.
Yeah.
These comics are so fun to play with.
Yeah. And I feel like it's really truly the flashbacks that give him that dimension, because without the flashbacks, you would kind of be questioning why is he asking these questions, and why is he trying to find out what happened to her? Like, why does Darth Vader care?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just like his story is so interesting because truly, like, you believe in the beginning that he did it for love because he thought that it was going to save him and Padme.
Like Hall & Oates, Holly.
Sure.
Do it for love. It's a great song.
Like Hall & Oates.
Probably what he was jamming to in his helmet.
Do you think he has Bluetooth in that thing?
Absolutely.
Sweet.
He's listening to like death metal or something.
Yeah, like Iron Maiden.
Yeah.
It's probably more his.
Pretty sick. I like to think he's probably listening to some metalcore like Kill Switch or something and just, holy diver. He's just like slashing people down.
Yeah, like a theme song that's not his march.
Great. He's probably got a mix though, like the Imperial March or something. I'm sure.
Like, yeah, now I'm picturing him, but like Star-Lord.
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe DJ Lobot like made a mix for him or something. I don't know. But I'm loving these stories, and as cool as the first issue was, the second issue kind of lost me for a little bit. I'm like, wait, Sabe? Okay, wait. And then we got the cover of the third issue, and they're back to back, obviously teaming up. I'm like, this just feels weird.
Yeah.
The Master of Deception, Holly. That's what they do. Let's go.
The cover. I wonder if. Because I feel like the cover, they're standing back to back. They truly do look like a team. We know that it's not a team. They're not truly teaming up. I don't think that they would look out for each other, obviously. No. So the cover is definitely odd to me. The cover, the artwork doesn't really match what we're seeing happening in the comics, or at least not yet.
And sometimes that is purposeful. And with this one, it is obviously to tease you. But remember, they kind of were fighting together to get out of those monsters in the cave.
But when you have a common enemy and then you go back to hating each other. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, absolutely. And that's what I'm excited to see. So let's talk about I don't want to, maybe we spent the whole episode on it. I have intentions to talk about other things and forgot to disclose that at the beginning I wanted to talk about the Bad Batch and a couple of rumors. But let's talk about what we think is going to happen then, Holly, because it doesn't feel like there's going to be an explosion, and Vader's obviously not going to die. The future of those with him is unknown and likely die. But
so we don't know, and I'm truly asking this because I don't know a lot about Sabe. I haven't read any of
you and
those
I
novels,
both.
So we don't actually know what happens to Sabe.
I do not know what happens to Sabe.
Okay.
I do not think anyone knows what happens to Sabe, to be honest.
So I mean, it's very possible that this comic line could also explain what happened to her, and it's probably Darth Vader.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I think it's, I don't know. I kind of would like to see them survive a bit more to have more of a confrontation, right? Because it doesn't seem like if you're going to have an explosion or this fish is going to destroy this hideout or whatever, I would love to have a little more of a confrontation with Sabe just screaming out like it was you. And him having to grapple with that a little bit more, right?
Or just kill her because he can't control his anger.
I think that's eventually what you're going to do, but I just want a little more of that moment of her really laying into him, like, you are the one who did it.
Well, and he deserves that.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's not going to be as powerful, though, because she doesn't know he's Anakin Skywalker.
I know. That's kind of a bummer.
I know.
What if somehow she
turned on her?
What if she finds out and then that secret just, like, dies with her?
I don't know.
Look. Listen.
Yeah. Look or listen. I'm doing both.
It could go many ways.
Yeah.
But I am thinking one of two ways.
Okay.
Option one, probably.
Multiple options. Okay, let's go.
Probably less likely.
Okay.
He remembers what happened.
Yeah.
Sabe looks very much like Padme. Darth Vader has creepy tendencies, and
Yeah.
he's like, I have to hold on to Sabe because she looks like Padme.
Do you
He's
think?
Creepy, weird dude.
We had another moment when they were looking at the recording, right? And they're in her apartment, and Sabe and the crew are there.
Yeah.
And he says, Padme?
And then the droid is like,
no,
actually,
that's a younger
her
Sabe.
biological makeup, blah, blah, blah. Yeah.
He continues to have those moments. So you're right. To hold on to her memory, he may.
It's weird.
He may.
It's weird. He's going to like hold her hostage.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's one thing that I think could happen. It
Okay.
probably won't, but
Okay.
it seems like something that you would see on Criminal Minds. And then like the BAU would have to try to talk him into letting her go.
Yeah.
And what would they even say to him? I feel like one of those negotiators could really get in there. But anyway, option 2.
Yeah.
He is going to have that flashback. They're all still going to be together. He's going to have a flashback of what happened. He's going to be blinded by rage, and he's just going to kill all of them.
Yeah.
I feel like he has a tendency to overreact, to put it lightly, and I think that he's probably just going to black out, and then that's going to be it. And then the end of the comic, he's going to storm out, and then that's going to be it.
Yeah, I think both options are plausible. Here's something I just recalled, Holly.
Yeah.
Do you remember at the end of the first issue where one of the generals, the Emperor, hails one of the generals and says, "Put me in contact with Vader." He's like, "Vader just left.
Oh, yeah.
Where'd he go? I don't know."
The Emperor was pissed.
No, the Emperor laughed and grinned.
Like, he set it up.
It's as if this is, I don't want to say it's the Emperor's plan, but the Emperor knows that all he's going to find is more pain and suffering, which will make him stronger and more obedient. The Emperor has no reason to stop him. What answers is he going to find?
Yeah.
That your children survived and they've been led to be little puny, annoying teenagers, that your wife is dead and you have no future with her, and that you killed her. It's just darkness. It's all darkness. There is no good left for Darth Vader. And he knows just revisiting these things is just going to make him more, tied to the dark side, or he'll sprinkle in, hey, there's still some ways of bringing her back, which is a whole nother story from another comic line. We'll talk about it.
Oh, that is a comic line? Oh,
it's
okay,
another part of the Vader series, but we'll talk about it
that's too
later.
bad, because I was going to say, if it weren't for freaking Count Dooku, we could actually get a story where Darth Vader tracks down Mother Talzin and tries to tap into tap.
Vader has some ancient dark side relics that he believes have powers that could bring back life. We'll leave it at that.
Okay.
Because that's the second line that is actually further in time.
And this is all canon.
It
Good
absolutely
Lord.
is. It's absolutely canon. But Holly, can we make one promise for any future discussions of comic books?
Okay.
That I will not recant what happens. I suck at it. I hate talking about story. I love talking. I love when people bring us to moments and I can share my feelings.
Why don't you let me recap?
I think that's how we should do it.
Okay.
It could be, the cashew chicken and all the sodium that
I
it
think
had.
it could also be the 6 hours of Fixer Upper.
Boy, it's like that shiplap's just burned into my mind. Maybe we put shiplap here. How about here? Maybe the more shiplap. Should we just shiplap the whole house?
If that was supposed to be Joanna Gaines, it was a really bad impression.
No, it was more Dude Dad.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That was
Great
pretty good.
channel, by the way. Oh God, here we go. Once again, Holly, intending to talk about other things, and then we find one thing in Star Wars history, and we talk about it for an hour.
What? Sometimes the stuff is worth talking about, and
Yeah.
I don't know. I actually, I'm not going to lie. I feel like there's been so much going on, and I feel like these comics have been taking so long to come out that it's like I forgot about them.
Yeah, and I think the only way we even spend time talking about comic books is if they're good stories. We've had not so great stories where we spend 5 minutes and we're like, yeah, that wasn't that great. But this one actually was surprisingly good for where I thought it was going.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like I'm going to be really disappointed if that fish, stops what he's doing or stops the detonation.
Yeah.
Darth Vader escapes, and then the rest of them just die, and it's just because of the fish. Like, wow.
Yeah. I who knows? He could be hailing the fish. Maybe he's got a little Ezra Bridger in him, and he's calling to the fish to save him. I don't know. Or that's a bigger fish seeking vengeance, which I think that's the whole point.
Maybe Palpatine sent the fish.
Wow.
Dispatched.
Who knows? I mean, Palpatine was on Naboo for a long time. He may have, formed a bond or an alliance with those giant fish.
I literally hate the idea of Palpatine having any connections to any nature. Creatures.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't like that.
Yeah.
They're too pure. Even if they are fish, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. No, I agree. He should have no other bonds in this world other than with himself. I agree.
God, phrasing. I just think that Palpatine deserves to be a lonely old man dying on Exegol.
Well, he finds love at some point, Holly. Whether you want to call it love or not,
Why
he finds someone.
That story. I just want to see Palpatine creating.
Yeah.
Okay, Palpatine creates a Bumble or a Tinder profile.
Jesus.
He's on Hinge.
What's it say? Former emperor,
I can be your king,
or I can be your lover. I can be both.
Find you a man.
You just have to get past the pale, wrinkly skin.
That's disgusting, and the disintegrating fingers and toes.
Yeah, he found love at some point. When he was a more handsome man. So there's love for everyone.
Was he a more handsome man? Do we have?
I think Ian McDermott was pretty handsome.
Well, remember we saw him at Celebration. He came out. He did that laugh. That was amazing. That was fantastic. And then they the lights came on and he's standing there by himself. That was amazing.
Super creepy. And
awesome. My God, that's so good. Okay. Anyway, that was a tangent.
That's okay.
Do we have a Palpatine backstory? I
think the Rise of Skywalker gave a little bit of the clone and all that. Yeah. Not a full backstory.
I just want to know,
Well, we do in Darth Plagueis. We have a little backstory.
I haven't read that.
That's okay. We probably should.
Okay.
I still think it's a great story and could be canonized at any day.
So that is Legends.
Technically, yes. The book is Legends now.
So can we take that background and it's real?
I don't see any reason why not, because there's not, I don't know. I don't think changing his story would do anything. I think it's a fantastic way he became part of the dark side and kind of learned under Darth Plagueis. I think that's a fantastic story.
Were his parents really bad?
His dad was a huge dick.
See, that's why here on Flying Casual we have one rule. Don't be a dick.
And then your children won't grow up to be Sith Lords.
As it turns out, I'm sure there are some children that are born that are it's their destiny to be a Sith Lord. But if you can stop it and not be a dick to your kids.
Yeah. Exactly, Holly.
I have it all figured out. I mean, come on.
I think you'll be a great parent one day, Holly.
Chewie agrees.
Chewie agrees. And wherever he is, he ran away because we're terrible.
And he hates Star Wars.
It probably
it's his namesake, and he just can't stand to be around us.
That's okay. Sometimes that's how I feel. You feel about me. That's okay. That's okay. Guys, all intentions here that we were going to talk about, more Star Wars, but this comic book was just pretty decent. Holly and I get on tangents, and that's why we need someone here to stop us sometimes.
Shut it down.
Someone just needs to shut it down, and I guess that's what I have to do in this moment, be the bigger person, Holly.
What a shame.
What a shame. But we will at some point talk about the Bad Batch, because I think there's some good story there, Holly. I think there's, some good potential to bring in, bigger characters. And what's the purpose of these dudes now? Were they affected by Order 66, or they're in their unique state that not allow them to become jeopardized? I don't know.
Okay, so
there's some interesting story there.
Next time on Flying Casual.
I'll have you record a little thing like that for the end of this. But that was fun, Holly.
This is why that Marvel comic book app has spoiled me, because I think I went through all of those Son of Dathomir comics in a night, and I start to finish, I did the whole comic line.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, we're so used to everything coming out all at once.
Yes.
We have this like instant gratification of just like next episode,
Yeah.
next issue, next issue. And now we have to wait.
Yeah. And I mean, this one we sat on for months. Like we had to wait for months.
Yeah.
So I think, we'll go back to a quicker release time, maybe once a month or once every 2 weeks.
Well,
But
patience is a virtue.
it is. And we are not on the dark side, so we will be patient.
Well,
I don't know if that made any sense. But, Holly, we got a book club coming up. Is it this weekend?
Yeah.
Are we in August?
we are.
Oh, my God.
We are in August.
Okay.
Yes, the book club will be on Saturday the 8th.
Okay.
So if you're a patron,
Be ready. Yeah, a patron of Patreon.
Yeah,
But you got it. You got it.
I don't
That's
even
okay.
know what to say anymore. Yes.
That's okay.
So the book club will be then. And I think quite a few of you guys have already RSVP'd. So I think that we might have a full house.
Yeah. I hope so.
But yeah, so I'm looking forward to that. And then at the end of the month, we'll have our follow-up discussion for the Force Conversation, the Casual Council.
That's right. Part 2 of a 10-part series. We might go into 2021 talking about the Force still, Holly.
There's so much to learn.
That's right. Guys, I think that about does it. I promise next time Holly will be recanting the stories because honestly, I think sometimes I'm a great storyteller, Holly. And then other times, just crap the bed. Just a lot of passion, though, for Star Wars. So a clearer story next time, folks, I promise. But we'll see you next week. Same time, same place. Some casual.